Today, I will be talking about the plague, also known as the Black Death, and the bubonic plague. The Black Death was the second most deadliest disease in the world. It killed 1/3 of whole Europe, and since the outbreak of the Black Death, it killed 75 million people across the world. The scientific name of Black Death was Yersinia pestis, or plague as we know it. It is a zoonotic bacterial infection transmitted by the way of flea parasite, and Black Death, usually the plague, attacks your bloodstream. At first, the people believed that the disease was imposed by God and that the plague death was a release to paradise for the good Muslims. Therefore, they did not fear or prevent getting the disease. However, as time passed and the outbreaks became heavier, they became extremely confused and frustrated because they weren't able to figure out what exactly was happening and how they could stop it or prevent getting it, and they started to believe that it was a punishment given from God for all their bad sins. Between the 700 and the 1850s, Istanbul of Ottoman Empire faced several major outbreaks of the disease. Many of the outbreaks in the Ottoman Empire was estimated to have at least 1% of a loss in the population. However, in 1778, along with 1705, 1726, 1751, 1812, and 1836, the loss due to plague was more than 5%. The disease could be transmitted by flea bites, ticks, from infected animals, which are rabbits, mice, squirrels, and chipmunks. By direct contact with someone who is infected, you would also be infected from them. It can also be transmitted through scratches and bites. Now I will be talking about how the people protected themselves from the disease at that time. Well, first, they really didn't go out to socialize as much because there was a very deadly virus and a disease going around, so they preferred staying home. They had no close contacts with other people other than their families, and they thought washing their hands and eating healthy food would help them prevent getting the disease, which had nothing to do with it. The effect of the disease on local economy was simple. People in Ottoman Empire started seeing every single trade ship as a threat, thinking that they would be bringing plague from abroad. Although the intellects of the empire were trying to inform the society, they faced huge economic damages. During the 17th century, the Ottoman Empire began to decline in importance with a series of revolts, territory losses, and the 1778 plague, which resulted in huge loss of life. Not only the plague or the Black Death or the bubonic plague was scary because that it killed people, people also feared it because the way you died was really painful. There are lots of examples for that, and I would like to start with the long-term effects of what happened to you if you got infected by the disease. At first, you would receive a headache followed by fever and sickness. Afterwards, you would experience feeling back, leg, or arm pain. After a couple of days passed, swellings would appear, which are called buboes, and that's how it got its name, the bubonic plague. They would later on darken and split open, letting out blood and pus. At this stage, lots of people died. But then later on, they would experience internal bleeding, and blood would come out of one's urines and stool, because the same thing that's happening to the outside of their body would happen to the inside. The Black Death was one of the oldest diseases on the planet that humans now know about and have information about them. So it's hard to tell too much greater historical significance of the disease. The epidemic is estimated to have killed approximately 50 million people in the Roman Empire alone, and probably much more before that because they had nothing, no medication at all. And now today, since 2000 and 2005 or 2006, there were only two causes of the disease, the Black Death, but none of them happened to end up with death or something fatal. Now, what do we do if we get the disease now? Several classes of antibiotics are effective in treating the bubonic plague. These include aminoglycosides, and people potentially infected with the plague need immediate treatment and should be given antibiotics within 24 hours of the first symptom to prevent death. Using the broad-based antibiotic streptomycin has proven to be dramatically successful against the bubonic plague within the 12 hours of infection.